Busan is a city with waves that never sleep. The ocean air carries the scent of fish markets, the excitement of tourists, and the soft rhythm of coastal winds brushing against high-rise windows. It was in this city, under the same sky but in different corners, that two boys were born, unaware that the world would one day chant their names together. Park Jimin, born in Jumjeong district, grew up with warmth that radiated from his family. His father, strict yet loving, taught him discipline. His mother, gentle and encouraging, nurtured his artistic curiosity. Jimin wasn't the loudest kid in class, but he had a spark, a natural grace that showed even before he knew how to name it. Teachers often said, "Anak ini ada sesuatu di matanya." Across the coastline in Mandeokdong, another boy was growing up, quieter, more introverted, Jungkook. He ran fast, laughed freely, and was obsessed with sports. At school, he wasn't the top student academically, but he excelled physically. Even then, people noticed something magnetic about him. He was shy, but his presence filled a room effortlessly. Neither boy imagined destiny was quietly stitching a path, one that would someday merge their lives into a journey beyond imagination. When Jimin attended Busan High School of Arts, his life took a sharp turn. Encouraged by a dance teacher who saw extraordinary potential, he auditioned for Big Hit Entertainment. He wasn't confident. In fact, he described that day as almost giving up. But fate intervened. Jimin passed the final audition just one day before Big Hit closed trainee applications. He became the last member to join BTS. Meanwhile, Jungkook also faced a crossroads. After appearing on Superstar K, his talent drew offers from 7 major Korean agencies. But something didn't feel right. He was only 13, confused, overwhelmed, until he visited Big Hit and saw Namjoon rapping in a practice room. In that moment, he felt clarity. He often jokes, "I joined Big Hit because I thought RM was cool." But that choice would define his entire future. The first time Jungkook and Jimin crossed paths, there was no dramatic moment. Just a shy kid meeting an older trainee with an intense passion for dance. But something about their energies fit, like puzzle pieces waiting to lock together. Big Hit was not the giant it is today. The building was small, the practice rooms were cold, and resources were limited. Yet the members recall those times as both painful and precious. Jimin struggled the most in the beginning. His dance was beautiful, but his singing stability was questioned repeatedly. He was almost cut several times. He cried quietly, often late at night, thinking, "If I fail, what will I tell my parents who believed in me?" Jungkook, meanwhile, had the opposite problem. His talent was obvious, but his shyness held him back. Vocal lessons made him so nervous that he cried, afraid of not meeting expectations. Yet, something happened between them during those trainee years. When Jungkook didn't eat enough, Jimin nagged him like a big brother. When Jimin doubted himself, Jungkook told him, in a rare moment of confidence, "Hyung, you're the best dancer I've ever seen." These small exchanges planted the seeds of a bond that would become one of the strongest friendships the K-pop world has ever witnessed. BTS debuted with No More Dream. But the world didn't welcome them with open arms. They were from a small agency, rookies nobody cared about. Jimin worked tirelessly, losing weight dangerously because he feared he wasn't good enough. Jungkook was still adjusting, still quiet, unsure how to carry the weight of being center and main vocalist as a teenager. The early years were brutal. Small venues, low album sales, limited media coverage, online hate yet behind the scenes. Jungkook and Jimin found comfort in each other's presence. They ate together, trained together, shared frustrations, and reminded each other that success wasn't measured yet. Jungkook said once, "If Jimin Hyung wasn't there, I might have become a completely different person." These years changed everything. I Need You gave BTS their first win. Run, Fire, and Blood, Sweat, and Tears marked the beginning of global attention. Jungkook transformed from a shy teen into a powerhouse vocalist, dancer, and center admired worldwide. His stage presence grew sharper, his confidence undeniable. Jimin became a legend in performance, the man who understood the stage. His iconic blood, sweat, and tears performance cemented him as one of the best performers in K-pop history. This era was no longer about surviving, it was about becoming. BTS stepped onto American stages, Billboard, AMAs, later the Grammys. This was the turning point. Jungkook, often dubbed the Golden Magne, became viral countless times. Jungkook slayed this choreography. Jungkook's vocals shook the stadium. Who is the guy with the bunny smile? Jimin, meanwhile, became a global favorite for his duality, soft off stage, unstoppable on stage. His fan cams broke records. His performance of Serendipity earned praise from Western critics. They were no longer just idols. They were cultural phenomena. 2023. 2024 became the era that defined their individual identities. Jimin, Face, first Korean soloist to reach #1 on Billboard Hot 100, Like Crazy became a global anthem. Critics praised his emotional delivery and stage artistry. Jungkook, Golden, one of the best-selling solo K-pop albums globally. 7 dominated worldwide charts. Jungkook redefined what it meant to be a K-pop soloist. This was no longer about BTS as a group. This was about the world recognizing the power of each individual member. Off stage, the world discovered the purity of Jungkook and Jimin's friendship. They supported each other's solo promotions. They comforted each other through stress. They cooked together during breaks, laughed during rehearsals, and stayed up late talking about fears, goals, and the future. Fans often say, Jungkook dan Jimin bukan hanya teman, mereka adalah saudara. And truly, their connection feels deeper than mere friendship. When both enlisted, the K-pop world felt empty. Jungkook, who had dominated the charts, suddenly went silent. Jimin, who brought emotion to every stage, disappeared from the spotlight. But the silence only strengthened their legacy. Media continued to report on their accomplishments. Fans revisited old performances. The world waited, patiently, emotionally. Their return was one of the most anticipated moments in K-pop history when Jungkook and Jimin returned from military service in 2025. The world responded with explosive love. Magazine covers in Korea, Japan, and the US. New variety programs, speculations of solo tours, major brand endorsements, rumors about BTS's 2026 comeback, and the most emotional moment, when Jungkook and Jimin appeared together again, smiling, standing side by side. 2 Busan boys who grew into global legends. The world knew their story wasn't ending, it was beginning again. December 2024 and early 2025 became one of the most emotional periods in K-pop history. As Jungkook and Jimin completed their military service, fans around the world felt a wave of relief, excitement, and overwhelming joy. Jungkook walked out of the base, wearing his uniform, head slightly lowered, shy smile tugging at his lips. It had been years since the world saw him outside military photos. Reporters waited. Fans cried. Hashtags like #WelcomeBack Jungkook took over global trends. But the moment that broke everyone's hearts, when Jimin appeared just days later, smiling softly, hand raised in greeting. His eyes looked tired, yet peaceful. The world realized something important. Despite their massive fame, they returned as the same humble Busan boys, grateful and grounded. Behind the scenes, staff members revealed how emotional the reunions were. Jungkook hugged each member quietly. Jimin held back tears. Everyone felt the weight of time. Years of silence, separation, and uncertainty finally lifted for ARMY. These weren't just idols coming home. They were family returning. Military life changes people. Waking up at 6 a.m., eating fast, moving fast, thinking fast, strict schedules, and cameras, no managers, no fans. When Jungkook and Jimin returned, the adjustment wasn't easy. Sources close to HYB shared. Jungkook struggled with sleep the first few weeks. Jimin felt overwhelmed by noise and crowds. Both took time to regain vocal stamina. Their bodies needed rehabilitation from training injuries, and yet, both of them faced this transition the way they always did. Quietly, humbly, diligently, Jungkook returned to boxing, cardio, and strength training. Jimin resumed his dance routines, starting from the basics, repeating movements until muscle memory awoke. They didn't rush into the spotlight. They didn't force content or appearances. They respected their own pace and each other's. This chapter of their lives wasn't glamorous, but it was human. IT reminded fans that before they were global icons, they were people trying to find balance again. BY mid 2025, major media outlets began writing deeply about Jungkook and Jimin again. Time, Rolling Stone, Vogue,
and
Variety, GQ, and the narrative was clear. The Kings have returned. Journalists noticed how their post-military presence felt more mature, more grounded, more charismatic. Their interviews carried depth, reflections about time lost, gratitude regained, and hopes for the future. Jungkook's post-military photo shoot for a luxury magazine became one of the most shared male idol pictorials of the year. Jimin's comeback editorial in Japan sold out in minutes. IT wasn't just their beauty, IT was their aura. Something about military service had carved them into men. Powerful yet gentle, confident yet humble. The world saw this transformation and couldn't look away. Both Jungkook and Jimin approached music differently after enlistment. Jimin became introspective, expressing deeper emotion in his vocal delivery. He spent more time in the studio, writing, experimenting, searching for textures that reflected his maturity. Jungkook, on the other hand, returned with fire. He wanted to grow, vocally, mentally, artistically. He experimented with low tones, powerful belts, and new genres. Producers noted that he worked with the intensity of a man who finally understood the scale of his gift. Their combined energy was magnetic. When they reunited in HYB's practice rooms, staff members described the atmosphere as electric. Jimin danced differently, sharper, freer. Jungkook moved differently, heavier, stronger. Their harmony, something only they possessed, returned naturally. IT was clear. This new chapter would be their greatest era yet. When Jungkook and Jimin reunited, fans immediately noticed something. They were closer, much closer. Time apart had made them appreciate each other even more. Their interactions felt softer, gentler, filled with mutual admiration. Jungkook teasing Jimin during practice, Jimin fixing Jungkook's collar during photo shoots, Jungkook resting his head on Jimin's shoulder. Jimin's warm laugh returning whenever Jungkook joked. Their bond was no longer just a friendship. IT was brotherhood forged in time, hardship, and shared destiny. In an unseen behind-the-scenes clip, Jimin told Jungkook jokingly, "Yeah, Magna don't disappear again." Jungkook laughed, but his answer held meaning. "Hyung, I'm not going anywhere anymore." Something extraordinary happened in 2025. Even without a group comeback, Jungkook and Jimin shaped the global K-pop industry. Magazine sales skyrocketed, streaming numbers soared, brand endorsements surged internationally. Analysts called it the Jungkook-Jimin effect. Whenever one appeared publicly, social media engagement exploded. When they appeared together, numbers doubled. Brands fought for them. Streaming platforms highlighted them. Award shows requested their participation. Their influence, far from fading during enlistment, had grown stronger. The world realized these two were not returning idols. They were returning kings, though their public return looked flawless. They faced private struggles. Jimin experienced self-doubt while recording new vocals, wondering if his voice had changed too much. Jungkook wrestled with pressure, trying to balance expectations and artistic identity. There were moments of frustration. Late-night practices, discarded demos, injured muscles, silent car rides home after exhausting rehearsals. But the most important thing, they didn't hide these struggles from each other. Jimin once told staff, "Jungkook understands even when I don't explain." And Jungkook once said, "When I'm overwhelmed, Jimin Hyung keeps me steady." Their bond carried them through the hardest internal battles. Again, mid-2025, fans noticed something strange. Jungkook and Jimin were seen entering HYB studios together multiple times. Producers hinted at a special project. Staff slipped comments like, "They sound incredible together." This ignited global speculation about a duet, a joint documentary, a return variety program, a comeback teaser. Every clue set the internet on fire. ARMY wasn't just excited. They were emotional. IT felt like history was looping, destiny circling back, bringing the two Busan boys into a new era of collaboration. And inside the studio, Jimin and Jungkook laughed. They recorded. They experimented. They reconnected musically. This wasn't just work, IT was a rediscovery of harmony. When Jungkook and Jimin returned, the fandom reignited globally. Concert reaction videos resurfaced. Old clips went viral again. Documentary views spiked. Fan projects reappeared across cities worldwide. But the most touching part, international fans holding support events for their return. In Seoul, Tokyo, New York, London, Jakarta, Manila, Bangkok, Paris. Bus shelters displayed Jungkook's face. Train stations lit up with Jimin banners. Drone shows in Asia recreated their silhouettes. 2025 became a year of global reunification. Army united again, and Jungkook and Jimin felt that love. They mentioned it in interviews. They wore gifts from fans. They read letters privately at home. This revival wasn't just popularity. IT was a global homecoming celebration. The greatest question of 2025 to 2026 emerged. What comes next for Jungkook and Jimin? Industry insiders hinted at a joint stage, a future subunit project, a BTS group comeback, solo films or documentaries, global concert appearances, but the truth is simpler, deeper, and far more meaningful. Jungkook and Jimin's future is a canvas, one they are painting together with newfound maturity, gratitude, and passion. Whether they stand alone or side by side, the world knows one thing. Their journey is far from over. The golden era is just beginning. Jungkook's global popularity accelerated dramatically after BTS's world tours, but it was during the later years, especially his solo era, that he emerged as one of the most recognizable faces in modern pop culture. His voice, previously known for its boyish clarity, matured into a powerful instrument capable of carrying entire stages on its own. International producers began mentioning his name in interviews. Western critics praised him for his ability to merge Western pop with Korean musicality. And fans across continents noted how he brought vulnerability, charisma, and emotion into every note. Yet through all the global attention, Jungkook kept repeating one truth. I became who I am because of BTS, because of the members. And among those members, one name always stood next to his, Jimin. By the mid-2020s, Jimin entered what fans call his emotional renaissance era. His music carried deeper pain, deeper beauty, and deeper meaning. He no longer sang just as an idol, but as an artist shaped by hardship, growth, and healing. His solo work, filled with themes of longing, identity, and vulnerability, attracted global listeners who didn't even follow K-pop. Jimin's choreography also transformed. It was no longer about sharp moves or perfect execution. Instead, he began dancing with storytelling in every gesture, looking as if he carried his emotions in the movement of his hands and the trembling of his breath. Critics wrote, Jimin dances like he is painting with his soul. And Jungkook, proud as always, repeatedly praised him on broadcasts. No one dances like Jimin Hyun. No one feels music like he does. Though fans loved them individually, the world was equally fascinated by the bond between Jungkook and Jimin. Their friendship, sometimes playful, sometimes brotherly, sometimes deeply emotional, became one of the strongest relationships in BTS history. They supported each other silently during hardship. They lifted each other up during burnout. They teased each other like real siblings, and whenever the group faced storms, the two often leaned on one another without having to say a single word. This bond was not created overnight. IT was shaped through years of shared dorm rooms, shared struggles, shared performances, and shared dreams. Together, they grew from teenagers chasing a dream into artists who changed the global music landscape. Their story became a symbol of loyalty, growth, and mutual belief. Jungkook's solo journey reached new heights when he dropped multiple record-breaking singles and collaborations. He topped global charts. He broke streaming records within hours. He filled arenas with fans chanting his name. But beyond the numbers, what made Jungkook's solo era special was how he embraced authenticity. He wrote songs about fear, loneliness, happiness, confusion, and hope, real human emotions beyond the glamorous image expected from idols. During interviews, he often said, I want people to feel less alone when they hear my voice. And they did. Jungkook became a companion to millions of listeners around the world. Jimin's post-military era marked the moment he fully redefined himself, not only as a singer or dancer, but as a visionary artist. He took creative control of his music videos. He co-produced stages. He shaped entire visual concepts. Industry professionals admired his refined artistic eye. Fashion houses adored his elegance. Photographers said he moved like a living frame. He earned the reputation of being one of the most influential male solo artists in Korea, with a fan base that remained fiercely loyal despite the ups and downs of the entertainment world. His music became a soundtrack of healing for many, and when asked about his artistic philosophy, he always answered softly, "If my songs can comfort someone the way music once comforted me, then I've succeeded." After years filled with solo activities, military service, and personal growth, the time for BTS's reunion drew closer, and no two people were more emotionally tied to the moment than Jungkook and Jimin. Fans noticed how often they mentioned missing the members, how their eyes softened when someone brought up old memories, how their voices trembled slightly when talking about performing together again. The world waited for the reunion, BTS waited for one another, and Jungkook and Jimin waited for the moment they could share the same stage again, singing, dancing, and laughing like they had always done. When they finally stepped back onto the same stage, their transformation was undeniable. Jungkook returned with the confidence of a global pop phenomenon. Jimin returned with the grace and strength of a fully realized artist. Their dynamic evolved. They were no longer young boys desperately trying to prove themselves. They were men who had survived pressure, criticism, global fame, and personal battles. Yet, the moment they danced next to each other again, it felt like nothing had ever changed. Fans cried. The members held back tears, and the world understood. BTS had grown, but their bond remained unbreakable. BY 2025. The impact of Jungkook and Jimin exceeded music. They influenced fashion, global youth culture, mental health awareness, philanthropy, and the global streaming landscape. Universities studied their cultural influence. Marketing analysts studied their brand power. Artists studied their techniques, performances, and emotional expression. Legacy is not built by numbers alone, but by the way people remember you. And the world will remember Jungkook and Jimin as two young dreamers who became global icons through kindness, passion, and relentless effort. Despite their individual successes, Jungkook and Jimin always returned to the same foundation. They were family, they were brothers, they were BTS. They often spoke about writing music together again. They hinted at joint performances. They dreamed of creating art that reflected everything they had learned during their solo journeys. With each passing year, their bond deepened, not out of obligation, but love and respect earned through a decade of shared hardship and triumph. The careers of Jungkook and Jimin are far from over. If anything, they are stepping into the most powerful era of their lives. More experienced, more emotionally grounded, more creatively confident, more mature, more unstoppable. Their journeys, once filled with uncertainty, are now marked by purpose, and their fans continue walking with them, just as they have since the beginning. The world waits for their next chapters, their next songs, their next stages, their next transformations, because one truth remains. Jungkook and Jimin are not just idols, they are living stories, stories still being written. After years of intense schedules and global fame, both Jungkook and Jimin entered a phase of deep self-reflection. Late-night interviews revealed a quieter side of their growth. Jungkook confessed he once struggled with the pressure of perfection. Jimin admitted he often questioned whether he was good enough. They weren't alone anymore. They had global fans, massive responsibilities, and expectations heavier than most people could imagine. But instead of breaking under the pressure, they let reflection guide their evolution. Jungkook learned to let go of self-doubt. Jimin learned to embrace his unique artistry. Both learned to be kinder to themselves, and that transformation became a core part of who they were as artists. Even during quiet months, when the industry slowed down and public appearances became minimal, Jungkook and Jimin remained active behind the scenes. They trained, they wrote, they experimented. Jungkook worked on melodies until morning light touched the studio window. Jimin reviewed choreography videos repeatedly, searching for emotions he wanted to express through movement. Silence did not mean stagnation for them. Silence was preparation. They were not merely waiting for the next chapter. They were building it now. Both artists had developed a remarkable skill, the ability to reinvent themselves without losing their identity. Jungkook explored genres he had never dared to try before. Jimin discovered new dance styles and vocal techniques that deepened his performances. Their reinvention was not drastic. Rather, it was graceful, a natural evolution that felt genuine, never forced. Fans admired how both remained true to their essence. Jungkook, the passionate performer with an unbreakable will. Jimin, the emotional storyteller with unmatched artistic depth. Their reinventions reminded the world why they were destined for longevity. As years passed, a new generation of artists rose, many openly stating that Jungkook and Jimin influenced their dreams. Trainees mentioned practicing Jimin's dances. Young vocalists covered Jungkook's high notes and auditions. Producers studied their vocal tones to understand emotional delivery. Even outside the K-pop world, their impact grew. Latin artists praised Jungkook's genre-crossing abilities. Contemporary dancers cited Jimin as one of the world's best movement storytellers. They had become more than performers. They were blueprints for future artists. When Jungkook and Jimin reunited after months or years apart for group activities, their shared energy returned instantly. They joked, they teased, they laughed in ways only people who grew up together could. Cameras caught subtle moments. Jungkook fixing Jimin's mic, Jimin smoothing Jungkook's jacket before a stage, both exchanging soft smiles during interviews. Fans felt something warm and nostalgic. IT was the exact dynamic that made millions of people fall in love with BTS in the first place. When they stepped onto the same stage again, something electric happened. Jungkook's raw vocal power, Jimin's elegant precision, their synchronized movements, shaped by a decade of dancing side by side. It didn't matter how long they had been apart. Their chemistry was immediate. Their timing was perfect. Their presence filled the stage effortlessly. Critics wrote, "They perform like two halves of the same energy, different, yet perfectly complementary." Fans felt it too. Their bond was unshakable, and their performance synergy was unmatched. Their offstage moments became just as iconic as their performances. Jungkook jokingly stealing Jimin's food, Jimin nagging Jungkook like an older brother, Jungkook clinging to him during cold rehearsals, Jimin praising Jungkook as if watching a younger sibling grow up. These small interactions painted a picture deeper than friendship. They were family, chosen, built, and strengthened through years of hardship, love, and survival. Their bond became a comfort for millions who found safety in their connection. Chapter 38. The quiet conversations never shown on camera behind the fame and the spotlight were moments fans never saw. Late-night conversations about fear and dreams. Honest words exchanged in practice rooms. Comforting hugs after stressful days. Reassurances whispered when doubt clouded their hearts. These private moments shaped their bond far more than the public saw. They reminded each other, "You're doing well. You're enough. We'll get through it." It was these invisible moments that kept their friendship strong and their career steady, no matter how turbulent the outside world became. Chapter 39, a legacy etched in time. By 2025, both Jungkook and Jimin had secured their place in global music history, not just through records or awards, not only through viral performances or magazine covers, but through the emotional impact they left on people's lives. They inspired courage, they inspired healing, they inspired hope. Their legacy was not about fame. It was about humanity, and even when future generations study music, culture, and digital influence, Jungkook and Jimin will be remembered as two artists who transcended boundaries. Chapter 40. The future they continue to build together. Their story did not end here. If anything, this was a new beginning. A beginning where their solos become more experimental, their collaborations become more symbolic, their performances become more legendary, their bond becomes even deeper. The world watches with anticipation, because Jungkook and Jimin's journey is not a closed book. It is an ever-expanding story, full of music, love, growth, and endless evolution. The chapters ahead remain unwritten, but one thing is certain: Wherever Jungkook and Jimin go, from stage lights to studio nights, they will continue to inspire the world. Together, as the new era unfolded, the world finally saw what the members themselves had known for years. Jungkook and Jimin had grown not just as performers, but as human beings. The world saw Jungkook's confidence blooming after years of quiet self-doubt, Jimin's emotional strength shining after countless moments of hidden anxiety. Interviews felt different now. Both spoke with clarity, warmth, and a gentle wisdom shaped by experience. Fans commented, "They're not boys anymore. They're men with stories that changed the world." This chapter of their lives wasn't loud. IT wasn't flashy. IT was mature, grounded, and real. Jungkook and Jimin entered a phase where each decision felt intentional. Jungkook reshaped his musical identity, exploring his voice, diving into production, experimenting with genres only he could pull off. Producers called him a natural-born global vocalist. Jimin sharpened the edges of his artistry, mixing modern, contemporary, and traditional dance forms with a sense of emotional storytelling that felt raw and cinematic. Every performance from him felt like a confession. Every note from Jungkook felt like a promise. They were no longer following trends. They were creating them, somewhere between the exhausting tours, long years of training, heartbreaking struggles, and beautiful triumphs. Jungkook and Jimin made an unspoken pact to never let each other fall behind. Whenever Jungkook doubted himself, Jimin encouraged him gently. Whenever Jimin felt overwhelmed, Jungkook grounded him with honesty. And cameras captured these moments, and headlines covered them. But this bond, this invisible pact, was one of the strongest foundations of their careers. They were brothers, not by blood, but by choice. In every new banking moment, fans found warmth in their bond again. Clips of Jungkook teasing Jimin, Jimin laughing at Jungkook's jokes, small gestures, like fixing each other's clothes or offering water after performances, became proof that time only strengthened their connection. Online discussions called them twin flames of performance, the heartbeats of BTS, the perfect balance of fire and grace. In a world that moved too fast, their bond remained a constant comfort.